Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive: to recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Welcome back to a new episode of Phasers Set to Stun, where we continue to show our love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film by podcast, which focuses on every system of the expanding Star Trek universe by covering television, movies, animation, directors, merchandise, and much, much more. Plotting your course on this voyage through the wormhole is your core Trek crew. I'm Wayne Whited.
And I'm Scott Hoffman.
And I'm David Burns.
And today we're returning to the edge of the frontier to continue our discussion on what we like to call Starter Treks, a chosen list for first-time viewers. This spoiler-free list focuses on the top 10 episodes from each season for people diving into Star Trek Deep Space Nine for the first time, showing them a great place to start and what to warp away from. With Starter Treks, we simplify the list to give new viewers a taste from each season. As you listen to this episode, you can find the course we plotted for you in the convenient list located in the description below. If you're new to the list, I suggest you check out the previous 5 seasons of our top 10 episodes of Deep Space Nine, season by season, where you can find on our website or your favorite podcast platform. All right, it's the beginning of the 1997-98 season, and things have never been busier for the world of Star Trek. Star Trek First Contact completed its worldwide release with $146 million in ticket sales, as well as its VHS debut in May. Pre-production on the 9th Star Trek film, Insurrection, began in February. And over on Star Trek Voyager, the beginning of the 4th season saw the introduction of the Borg to the series, along with a change in the cast, with Jennifer Lean's character as Kes being removed, and her replacement, a Borg named Seven of Nine, played by Jerry Ryan, brought on board. But on Deep Space Nine, the series began its 6th season with a massive story arc leading into the Dominion War. Behind the scenes, there were changes in the writing and production staff, with Robert Hewitt Wolf departing the series at the end of last season, being replaced by Hans Beimler, and Renee Echeverria and Steve Oster being promoted to co-supervising producers. Battles will be fought, planets will fall, and many of our favorite characters will never be the same. So now let's begin our list of the top 10 must-watch episodes from the 6th season of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. David, why don't you start us off with the first episode?
That would be A Time to Stand, written by Hans Beimler and David Whittle, directed by Alan Kruger. The season opens with the continuing battle with the Dominion and marks the beginning of the series experimenting with serialization. The Federation fights but continues to retreat as they're taking massive losses, and the war isn't going the way they would like, putting Sisko and crew into a new situation, which will send them into the heart of the enemy for a special mission. On the other side of the fight, Dukat on Deep Space Nine is enjoying the victories and being back in charge of the station he lost so many years ago. However, this comes with consequences, as he is feeling friction of the Bajorans coming back on board and dealing with the Dominion who are questioning his leadership. So this episode is vital, I think, for anybody who's watching this show, because we are witnessing a war like the Federation hasn't seen in a tremendous long time.
Yeah. And
we are going to get to see some battles on the small screen that we've never seen before. We're going to get to see a little bit more of that the rest of the season, too. But, you know, there's a lot happening in this season, and it opens up with a bang in this season for sure.
Yeah, it's the culmination of a lot of tensions, and I think it's one of my favorite seasons overall, because you have a lot of strong episodes here that we're going to talk about, obviously, but like you said, the scale of the space battles and the dramatic tension that you see kind of unfold throughout the season, I think is done very, very well, and it sets it up. It's like the Empire Strikes Back just happened, right? So we're kind of at the culmination of that.
That's what I feel as this season ends, is the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I agree with that. It does have that feel, and I do think this is probably one of their strongest seasons. The 2 points I want to bring up is we've got some additions this season of the secondary cast, and the big one is Admiral Ross is introduced in this episode, played by Barry Jenner. He becomes very, very important during this season and next season. And also, this episode has a dedication as well to the memory of Brandon Tartikoff. Was the former chairman of Paramount Pictures. He died in August of 1997. He's the guy that told Rick Berman to start a second Star Trek series, which led to Deep Space Nine.
No, wow.
And the uniforms are tailored better. They look really good on them now, finally.
Yes, they were rather loose, weren't they, last season?
Yes, they were. They look nice, and comfortable now, like it suits them.
They're not doing the Picard maneuver all the time and just
no.
pulling the top down. Yeah.
Like the ladies look like ladies now in the uniforms instead of a guy's tunic on top of them. Yeah, it looks so much better now.
All right, Scott, the second one is yours.
Yeah, so the second one up is called Rocks and Shoals. It's written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Michael Vehar. This episode reminded me a lot of The Ship from the last season, to the extent that when I was writing this write-up, I started writing about The Ship, so I'm glad that I fixed that. But it's another one that revolves around a tense situation involving a crashed ship and a manipulative Vorta. Sisko and the crew are piloting a stolen Jem'Hadar fighter when they're shot down, crash landing on a nearby planet. And they're not alone. There's a crashed Dominion ship with a crew of Jem'Hadar soldiers and their wounded Vorta. When two of Sisko's crew are captured, the opposing crews face a tense negotiation. Sisko wants his crew back, and the Vorta need the Ketracel White aboard Sisko's ship, as the Vorta fears what happens when his Jem'Hadar run out of the drug. As negotiations continue and tensions build, Sisko is presented with a choice he'd rather not make. There's an impressive secondary actor playing Kivon, the Vorta, who I think does a great job of playing just an absolutely reprehensible person. Like, I hate his character, which means that he was doing a good job. And apparently this episode was filmed in Sun Valley, where temperatures went up to 128 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Hottest day in the past 10 years, apparently, and makeup was melting off people on camera.
God, could you imagine wearing that prosthetics and at 120 degrees? Like, gosh, it's uncomfortable.
No, I mean, like, for the Jem'Hadar especially, it had to be just torturous.
Earn that money.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's a good episode. It's a great way of starting the season out. The idea that Sisko, his decision on what he's going to do with the Jem'Hadar, I won't give anything else away, but it really, like, it morally grounds his character for the entire season. This is the direction that Sisko is going. The whole episode's a great example of wartime ethics in Star Trek, which is something that we've never really established or went into in the franchise, and that's what makes this episode one of the stronger ones. And you got to watch this. You can't miss this one.
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning that on the station, there's quite a tense situation going on, with how the Cardassians are running the station and some of the compromises that Bajorans are having to make. Specifically, there's the performance by Lillian Chauvin, I think it is, who played Vedek Yassim, has a very dramatic omen kind of moment in this that, I don't know, it floored me. But so there's more happening than, just on the planet. On the station, there's a lot that's going on as well.
All right, I have episode 3, and it's the two-parter, Behind the Lines and Favor the Bold, which was written by Renee Echeverria, Iris Stephen Bear, and Hans Beimler. Part 1 was directed by LeVar Burton, and Part 2 was directed by Winrich Kolbe. Captain Sisko is reassigned to Starfleet Command Operations just as the Dominion tightens its grip on Deep Space Nine, leaving Dax in charge of the Defiant. On the occupied station, Kira and the Resistance Cell struggle to sabotage the Dominion's efforts to dismantle the protective minefield, but their work is jeopardized when Odo falls under the sway of a female changeling and neglects his duties. As the minefield nears collapse, Cisco assembles a massive Federation task force to retake the station and prevent Dominion reinforcements from entering the Alpha Quadrant. Meanwhile, Kira, Quark, Rom, and Jake attempt last-ditch efforts of resistance even as morale falters and the Dominion closes in. With the war's balance at stake, both Starfleet and the station's resistance brace for the decisive battle that will determine control of the wormhole. That's quite a mouthful because it's a long episode, but a very important one. This is a very, very important two-parter for many reasons, and it's one that you really can't skip for this season. There's a lot of character development here. It's important for Cisco. He's no longer able to lead the missions and has to be the leader and send troops in to do the work instead. And it's important to Dax because she's the one leading the battles and discovers that she may like war a little bit too much in these episodes. Everyone has a very important part to play in these story, all of them. And then there's Odo. Odo, he's being caught between the Federation and his ethics and his people. It's a great story. Just phenomenally acted. It's just, you can't miss it. That's the best thing I can say. There's a lot I can't say because I can't spoil this episode yet for you guys. Just watch it.
Well, there's a lot of stuff we can't spoil in every episode we're talking about right now because so much is happening. But one thing I love that the show did is they realized they needed to turn things upside down, and that's exactly what they did, because everybody is in a very uncomfortable position for probably pretty much the first half of this season. Mm-hmm. And even us as an audience are a very uncomfortable position because you're like, this just doesn't feel right, but it is because of what's happening. So I like that they did it that way.
Yeah, it's a direction I never thought we would see for Odo, and I think I can say that in an unspoilery way. Amazing performances, but just my jaw was on the floor when I had seen it before, but just remembering what had happened. Pretty shocking, and shocking for how long it goes on. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember these two episodes strongly from their first airing. It's probably because I had revisited the sixth season for a long time, so it's probably the two episodes I remember the most. And Renee Auberjonois does a phenomenal job playing Odo here. There's always that question whether he's going to do the right thing, but the way he acts, it just adds complexity to his character. I love his performance. I think he's just phenomenal actor, and this really highlights his character.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back, continuing on with our starter treks for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Our fourth pick is brought to us by David.
That would be Sacrifice of Angels, written by Hans Beimler and David Whittle, directed by Alan Kruger. These three did a lot this season.
They did.
Picking up right where Favor the Bold ends, the battle for the wormhole in Deep Space Nine is at an all-time high. Cisco and the Federation fleet must do everything they can to prevent the rest of the Dominion to come through the wormhole. However, they must cut through the Dominion Cardassian blockade to get to the station. It is do or die. On the station, things are coming to a fever pitch as well for Quark, Rom, Lita, Jake, Odo, and Kira fight for their lives. The war rages and things look bleak. The Federation, Cisco, and crew need a miracle, and the consequences in this episode will cause a ripple effect across the stars forever. This episode contains the largest battle ever seen in Star Trek.
It's
TV-wise. It is incredible. And it is the first time they use completely generated graphics for the entire battle. First time Star Trek has done it on the TV up to this point. And it also concludes the 7-episode arc that we have been talking about, the serialization here. And it really, as someone who's never watched Star Trek before, all of this is really important that we're talking about it, but it is a massive part of the history of the Federation and Star Trek itself, which clearly makes it a very important episode to watch here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of standout performances by so-called kind of side characters, although it's hard to know. Like, I use that term with a little bit of reservation because it feels like on Deep Space Nine there aren't really any secondary characters because they're all so integral to it.
Yep.
But specifically, I'm thinking about Chase Masterson as Lita, Max Rodenchik as Rom, Aaron Eisenberg as Nog, and Melanie Smith as Yal. They all, and Casey Biggs as Damar. they all have a vital role to play here. I think you get a lot more depth out of each of these characters. And if you've been following along, this is definitely the one not to miss for each of their parts in it.
Well, Nog has really come into his own. I absolutely love Nog in this season.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nog is such a turnaround in this series. Aaron Eisenberg is fantastic.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this episode since it first aired. I don't know how I just haven't really done too much of a rewatch for the last two seasons. So when I watch this, I realized that, the last two episodes were a two-parter, but this actually technically feels like the part three to that. So, you really can look at it as a part three because, I mean, it's another important episode that can't be skipped, not just for the obvious reason that this is a seven-episode arc here at the beginning, but there's a lot of foretelling in this episode. It's very important for the characters of both Sisko and Dukat, because after this point, things take a very dramatic turn for them in this season and the next season, which was really demonstrated even more on our next pick in the list. Scott, why don't you just go ahead and tell us about the fifth episode?
Oof. Waltz, written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Rene Auberjonois. All right, so I've got Waltz, which is written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Rene Auberjonois. Looks like I have another crashed ship episode, but it's also a cave episode, so we've got that. Sisko and Dukat are on the same ship as Dukat is being delivered to a Federation hearing where Sisko is to testify. The ship is shot down by the Dominion, leaving Sisko and Dukat stranded together after the former Gull saves the captain's life. Sisko is forced to depend on Dukat for medical care and help with setting up a communications beacon to rescue the two. But Dukat wants something else from Sisko, a perspective that Dukat was always acting with honorable intentions. Unfortunately, Dukat has gone off the deep end after the death of someone close to him, and familiar voices in his head begin to warp his already tenuous grasp on reality. This is a showcase of amazing acting from both main players, Sisko and Dukat, but it's the storytelling and direction that are at the top of DS9's game. To me, I feel like this plays out like more of a stage show that's worthy of a Tony as much as it is an Emmy. I could see this very easily turning into a small cast stage show, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was reminding me of a couple of plays along those lines. Ducat's performance, Sisko's performance, but then the supporting players that are then called in to kind of manifest the insanity I think that's growing in Dukat were fantastic. I was absolutely glued to this episode.
Saying Ducat's going off the deep end is putting it lightly, I might say.
Oh yeah,
He's gone way off the deep end.
yeah.
Powerful performances for sure. You're right.
Yeah, this is a character piece for Sisko and especially Dukat. After what happened in the last episode, it really explores how far Ducat's falling into his madness. His obsession with Bajor and his morality. He's gone. Really, Ducat's gone far in this series. Probably farther than any Star Trek villain has ever in Star Trek since like Khan. He's no longer that two-dimensional villain that we saw during the first few seasons. He's become one of my favorite characters, actually, on Deep Space Nine. One of my favorite to follow. And that a lot has to do with the actor, Mark Alamo, who plays him. He's a great actor, and he's just acting his socks off here in this episode. It's like you said, Scott, I'm surprised that at least one of them weren't nominated for an Emmy this season. I know the Emmys don't look very kindly to sci-fi, but this episode and one that we're going to be talking about, next, I think, really should have at least got a nomination for some of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a standout piece that kind of demonstrates why Deep Space Nine is worth watching.
Yeah.
For episodes like this that really just take every aspect of it to the next level.
Well, talking about that sixth episode, that one's mine, and that is Far Beyond the Stars. The story was by Mark Scott Zicree. Teleplay was by Iris Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler, and it was directed by Avery Brooks himself. After receiving devastating news about the war, Captain Sisko collapses into a vivid vision of himself as Benny Russell, a black science fiction writer struggling to publish a story about a black science fiction commander in 1950s America. Benny faces racism, police brutality, and crushing editorial censorship as he fights to make his story and its hopeful future real. As the line between Sisko and Benny blurs, Benny's emotional breakdown reveals the psychological toll on both eras' injustices. Now, this, along with, I would say, the fifth series episodes, Trial and Tribulations, are probably the two most talked about episodes of the series. They're certainly the most acclaimed episodes of the series. Most of the cast, especially Avery Brooks himself, calls this their favorite episode. It's easy to see why. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the most powerful and dramatic episodes of the whole series, and one of the best written episodes of Star Trek, period. And I see that over and over again with the critics, with the cast, with even people that weren't even in the episode who have seen it say that. The performances are very human, very raw, from anything that they've had to do before. Like I said, Avery Brooks directed this episode himself, and he just gives really remarkable depth to Benny. You can feel that it's coming from the heart. That everything that he wants to portray, what he wanted to come from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, is right here. And with the open ending, and I won't give anything away because it leaves a lot open for interpretation. It's phenomenal. I love the ending. It's really bold for the series to go this way, especially at this point, because this episode has nothing to do with the Dominion War whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But Deep Space Nine had to approach this at one point or the other. It had to go this, and because it's the only Star Trek series that could do this.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that one of the definitive standout episodes for the series, and I would say possibly for the franchise, ultimately has nothing to do with what's happening on the station.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, it's fascinating that that's the case, but at the same time, it has everything to do with Star Trek. Amazing performances. I feel like it's probably, considering the Rocks and Shoals conditions with all that makeup kind of melting on their faces, this is probably a welcome departure from that.
Oh, yeah.
Where you get to see a lot of them out of makeup, especially Renee. Yeah. This had to be like, yes, I will do this episode 5 times if you want me to. Just get me out of that makeup.
Yeah, I mean, that episode dealt with some heavy subjects too, so which needed to be, Star Trek does a really good job with. So it was a very good episode.
I found some interesting trivia about this one that I didn't know was the case. Apparently, there's a memo on someone's desk that says no one would believe that a cheerleader could kill vampires. Which was an intentional reference to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which also had Quark's Armin Shimmerman playing a recurring role that I forgot was on there. I watched Buffy for a long time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
That's true.
Too.
Nice.
But yeah, it was a nice little nod there.
Yeah, I got a little behind the scenes bit that I discovered during my research too. I thought it was kind of funny. The Deep Space Nine artwork that floats out the window and lands, the boot print that is on that paper was actually created by Jerry Ryan. They needed a footprint, and at the time they were filming on Voyager, they're filming the episode The Killing Game, where she was dressed up as a French resistance worker with these heavy boots. So the art director just asked her to stomp on it for him.
Wow, interesting.
All right, David, tell us about pick number 7.
And that it would be Inquisition, written by Bradley Thompson and David Weddle, directed by Michael Dorn, Worf himself. Mm-hmm. Dr. Bashir is planning to attend a medical conference, but before he can leave, a Starfleet secret intelligence arrives on the station, quickly canceling his trip. It seems they have strong evidence that there is a security breach on the station, and everyone on staff is suspected. They are all relieved of their duties while this secret intelligence does their investigation. It isn't long before Bashir is right in the crosshairs that he might be guilty of treason. This mind-bending episode will have you guessing until the very end. Now, we can't give away some things in this episode because the people who have never seen this before need to watch it and be surprised. but it definitely has some effects that we're going to see later on in Star Trek in later years. William Sadler obviously has a big role in this one, and he does a really cool job in this. I like William Sadler. Wayne, I know we met him at a convention.
Yeah, he was
really cool
so
dude.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. But he plays a big role in this one, and for a very good reason. And those who have not seen this episode and have seen some recent things, you'll be able to put this episode together with that recent thing. I don't want to give it away for you because I don't want to ruin it. So, no, great episode, and it definitely is mind-bending of what's going on. You're like, what the hell? And then when it finally reveals, it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I've been a enormous fan of William Sadler ever since Demon Knight, Tales from the Crypt, the Demon Knight movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
His character is a favorite of mine in this series, and I think you'll find out why.
Yeah, this is a good episode. You can't miss this one. It's too important for the rest of the series, and like David said, further on into other series, because there's a lot going on here. I did a little bit of research, and I actually found out that this episode was originally intended to be something completely different. When the first draft, I've never seen an episode written so differently throughout its drafts, but it started off as a comic episode where Bashir goes to this planet to help the population, and he parks the runabout, and then when he returns, he finds he gets a parking ticket. And the bulk of the episode is him fighting against the ridiculous red tape that the planet's government had set up just to get out of this ticket. Now, that's quite a difference between what we got and where they started off. But I'm going to be honest, I actually would like to see that episode. I think it might have been pretty funny.
It could be, but we got a great episode out of it.
We did.
Be rewritten. So.
We did.
Yeah, that's true.
I also want to point out, too, and this, I didn't see this the first couple of times I watched this, but once I saw the... when I did my research and saw the notes, I had to go back and watch it, and it does happen. Bashir appears to give Sloane the middle finger.
Oh, he does.
He was leaving that meeting. I thought it was they were kidding about it, but I went, it's
he rubs
quick,
it along the side. Yep, he does.
He does. I like that.
I caught that immediately. Oh, look at Bashir.
Did you?
Yep,
missed that.
The middle finger Easter egg.
But it's a great episode. It's a very important episode. We're kind of skipping around, working around the subject of what it's about. But spoilers. No phasering this time.
Nope.
We're gonna allow it.
But I will say this is one that bears a rewatch. So if you're trying to get through the entire season, go ahead and obviously do that. But it's one that's cause you kind of rethink what you were seeing.
Yeah, there were a few episodes this season that really were incredibly well done and deserve a second or two, or even a third viewing of it. Like I said, most of these episodes I haven't seen since their original airing. This is another one. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed rewatching it again. All right, let's pause once again for station identification. Welcome back to Deep Space Nine Starter Treks. We have given you the first 7 of our picks, and Scott will tell us about number 8.
Yeah, number 8 is fascinating. In the Pale Moonlight, written by Michael Taylor and Peter Allen Fields, and directed by Victor Lobel. We open on Sisko making a regretful captain's log, where he laments ever-growing losses of the Federation in the Dominion War. He reflects on some questionable choices he's made and wrestles with his conscience about what we see unfold in the episode. Sisko sacrifices his morals in several ways so that he can encourage the Romulans to give up their non-aggression pact with the Dominion and finally join the war. Throughout the episode, we watch Sisko make one compromise after another in desperation, but we also hear his reflection on what he's done and what he's willing to do in order to end this seemingly endless war. It's a tense, dramatic episode that makes me wonder how many of our other favorite captains have wrestled with the same dilemmas in previous wars. Because this is the most we've ever seen dedicated to a war like this. And I know that this series has gotten a little bit of criticism as being less Star Trek because of it. I think it's fascinating to see this end of it when a science-based organization is forced into this kind of situation, and something that just kind of helps to kind of drag out what we haven't been able to see with battles with the Borg or conflicts with the Klingons, the Romulans. I think it just sets up the opportunity for other series to have that kind of serialized approach and to get into deeper, darker kind of territory.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely something Star Trek needed, in my opinion. I know it does take criticism for it, but
yeah,
it's kind of nice to see. It's weird to say this, but it's kind of nice to see the dark side of Star Trek, and you see that in Deep Space Nine. The three of us always talk about how heavy this show gets, and it really is. This season is so heavy, and especially the way it ends. And again, we're not going to give anything away, but it literally ends like The Empire Strikes Back, and you're just left with this. Oh my God, how are we going to pick up from this in season 7? But I mean, the whole season just has that going for it, and it just does not let go.
Yeah, well, let me say, because you just brought up the good point that we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks, is that this Deep Space Nine is really doing, creating new ground for Star Trek, but it is very dramatic, very dark and heavy this season, and it's hard to binge watch this season. We've been talking about how difficult it has been getting through these episodes, and it's not because the episodes are bad. That's quite the opposite. It's just there's a lot of emotional stuff going on right now with the season. You need to pay a lot of attention because there's a lot of continuity, a lot of continuation of the episodes. So it takes a lot of your attention. Best to break the season into bits and watch it over a longer period of time. But this is an interesting episode. It's told mostly in flashback, but it's also a very, very important episode for the Dominion War story, and that's why we chose this as part of the top 10, because it's just so important. Avery Brooks, he delivers a powerful performance in this, but I want to point out Andrew Robinson. I love him. I love him ever since I saw him for the first time in Hellraiser. He just steals every scene he's in. He's got that chilling calm that Garrick can only deliver, and I just love him, and he's phenomenal in this episode.
Yeah, and it's such a. I'm just thinking back to when we started watching Cisco in season 1, how different he's become. How many kind of things he's had to change over the course of it. So I love the way that this episode begins and ends in terms of how it's framed with that kind of flashback until the final fade out to credits. I think is still pretty shocking. It's a loud silence at the end of this one.
Yeah, and there's a nice little bit of continuity in this episode, and I won't get phased for this because this is no spoiler. But one of the ships that they stated that's destroyed by the Dominion is the USS Cairo, which is Captain Jellicoe's ship. If you remember, he mentioned that in the Next Generation episode, Chain of Command. But continuing on more recently, the wreckage of that ship will be later found in the Star Trek Prodigy episode, The Fast and the Curious. Like I said, nice connection between past, present, and the more recent Star Trek series.
Interesting.
All right, let me bring you number 9, and that is His Way, written by Iris Stephen Bear and Hans Beimler, and directed by Alan Croker. When Odo struggles to move past his awkwardness with Kira, Bashir introduces him to Vic Fontaine, a charming holographic lounge singer who becomes an unexpected advisor in matters of the heart. Vic encourages Odo to embrace confidence and emotional vulnerability, even coaching him through simulated scenarios and with a holographic Kira. As Odo begins to open up, real Kira returns from Bajor, unaware of his growing determination to express his feelings for her. Now, this is a calmer, more lighthearted episode than most of the season. It's kind of a breather that we really needed, which is why I kind of argued a little bit to have this in the top 10. It's a romantic drama. It's caught right in the middle of all these war episodes, but it showcases Kira and Odo and their relationship together, and that's two characters that really hasn't had much to do for the second half of this season. So it's nice that they got an episode together. But it also introduces us to one of the last of the secondary cast for the series to appear, and that's James Darren as Vic Fontaine, the holographic lounge singer. I love James Darren. He was the star of one of my favorite Irwin Allen series back in the 60s, The Time Tunnel. I was fortunate to be able to meet him shortly after he filmed this episode. I took my mom to a convention up in Cleveland to meet him because she was a huge fan of his back in the early 60s when he was like this teenage heartthrob. And he was so nice to me and so nice to her. He's a brilliant character actor who unfortunately passed away just a little over a year ago. But I love Vic Fontaine. I think he was a great addition. A little lighthearted, a little bit away from the war that we needed at this time in the series.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about how heavy it's been. We needed a break from all of that. Otherwise, it's going the wrong direction. We needed something to have to step away from the craziness that's happening in the world of Star Trek. So, no, it was well needed. I liked it.
Yeah, very unexpected in a lot of different ways. With the relationship and the use of Vic Fontaine, this is one where I kind of feel like I'd have kind of a Farscape reaction, and that at a certain point, Farscape was getting into like tuxedos and things like that. And I remember missing parts of it and finding that, and I was like, what's
happening?
What did I miss? Because apparently it's a lot. I think it's interesting to see this. It reminds me of the episode with Data in Next Generation where he's working with Joe Piscopo as the comic.
Yeah.
Obviously more in depth than that, but I don't know, just an interesting way to kind of go back to this kind of use of a holodeck in a very unexpected way.
Yeah, I love this episode. I loved it back then. It's kind of a musical if you really think about it. Years before Strange New Worlds attempted it. There's 5 songs, and I'll be honest, I think Deep Space Nine did a better job.
So you had to bring that up, right? Now my mind immediately goes to rapping Klingons again. Thank you. No,
it's amazing. Calm down.
Incorrect. But I mean, Odo struggles with humanity stuff like Data did, so you can really see the similarities in those two characters.
Yeah.
And you see what Odo is battling, and again, we can't give away too much, but things will happen more for him, for where he's leaning and which way he knows he needs to go. There's a lot of moral debating he's got going on inside of himself. There really is.
Yeah. And this opens up this storyline with Vic to one of my favorite episodes of next season, which we'll talk about. It was a funny episode. I love that episode. So I thank this episode for being written and brought to Deep Space.
It's also very interesting. Like if you were going to tell somebody that this is a very important episode for a lot of different reasons, the way that it opens, you'd be like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't need to see this, but you absolutely do, because I remember not seeing this the first time I saw the opening of season 7, and I was just like, clearly I missed so much. So definitely worth a watch.
All right, David, you're going to close out the season with episode 10.
Tears of the Prophets, written by Hans Beimler and David Weddle, directed by Alan Crooker. In the season finale and the 150th episode, Sisko is chosen to lead an attack on the Cardassian homeworld. Before he does so, the Prophets make an appearance to him in a vision. The Prophets warn him on the impending doom that lies ahead if he leaves the station. Needing help from Bashir, Dax, and Worf make a monumental decision for themselves as Dukat takes a step into a place he never imagined, one that has serious consequences on Sisko as the emissary, Bajor, and all of Deep Space Nine. So there's a major ending in this one that would shock everybody.
Yeah.
And which leads us into the Empire Strikes Back vibe that we get here. Even another Star Trek movie, but if we say it, then we're going to kind of give away what happens.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say the similarities between this and a certain Star Trek film. Yeah, wow, this one really catches you by surprise when you get to the end of it. You really didn't see that coming at all. At least I didn't. And it was devastating.
Yeah, I kind of hate this episode. I mean, it's a very important episode, but I'm like, you stop.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad you said that, because I was feeling I may be the same, was the only person that felt that way. But it's a really good season finale. It's well written. It's like most of the finales, leaves a lot of open questions, and it sets the stage for the B storyline for next season. But and it's so really, really hard to talk about this episode. But I remember being so angry at what they did and not knowing the reason why. I think, for the end of this episode. Now, years later, I do know the reason. And to be honest, I'm even more angrier now than before. I hate what they do to one of the characters.
Yeah.
And I feel it really wasn't necessary, especially since the actor didn't want to do it and had a better solution. But in my opinion, they made the wrong decision with this. I'm going to leave it at that, but because there's nothing we can do. It's done and gone now. But I didn't like it. I didn't like it when it first aired. I don't like it now, but still, it's a damn good episode.
Yeah, there were probably a fair amount of rage quitters after this.
Probably, but you know what? It's a bold move by the writers.
It is.
It reminds me of Game of Thrones. No one's safe. And I like that. I get tired of everybody in Star Trek being safe, and you know that. So there's no danger. So I'm kind of glad they went that way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's a lot of danger in this series, especially with this war. We really don't know what's going to happen to any of these characters. I mean, it's different from Next Generation. We all knew what was going to happen to all those characters. They're going to make films. But this, we have no idea what's going to happen, anything. And next season, even more happens. So, just sit down and enjoy the ride. But it does stir up a lot of emotions.
Yeah. Have we talked about Jeffrey Combs?
Not much, Wayun? Do we? And we should. We should. He's so important to this series.
I know that he's a phenomenal actor that plays Wayun. I know that he's been like 8 different characters in Star Trek. Probably more if you count how many Wayuns we go through.
He's probably got the record.
Right.
Yeah, well, he was a major character on Enterprise too. So yeah, he's so important to the franchise.
He's just got such a chilling, calm delivery. It's hard not to see his final round as Scarecrow in the Batman animated series with the way he delivers his lines.
Yeah.
But Wayun is a character that you love to hate. But I just want to take a moment to just call out how much of a standout character he is.
I'm glad you did, because there's so many secondary characters in this series. It's kind of easy to forget about talking about one, and they all deserve to be discussed about because they're all phenomenal. They're fantastic, and Jeffrey Combs is a great. We got to meet him as well, and he's such a joy to talk to.
Yeah.
All right, and now, of course, with every season, not every episode turns out to be the classic Star Trek hit that we all love. Sometimes an episode may not work. Either the script is lackluster and boring, the acting is wooden, or the FX look like something straight out of the original series. These are the episodes to skip, our dishonorable mentions. David, I'll have you go first.
I feel like every episode I'm picking on a freaking love episode. But here's another one, Resurrection. Star Trek just, man, when they go wrong on romance, they go wrong. And this is like a mirror universe. Burrell tries to steal the Bajoran orb of prophecy, but Kira falls in love with him, making things that much more difficult. And it's just, no. It's a mess. I want nothing to do with this episode, and listeners, you shouldn't either.
Right. Scott?
I agree. I got so sick of mirror universes in here that I was like, well, this is fun, but do we really have to?
Yep.
There was another episode that I didn't even watch, Prophet and Lace.
I did watch that, and that was my second choice. I did rewatch that, and yeah, that's a little cringeworthy.
It does not hold up well.
No.
Offensive in a lot of ways. So I don't think it advances much, and it's one of those places where it's kind of unfortunate. Like there are highs and lows to the Ferengi arcs. I feel like it was a low one. But Wayne, what about you?
Well, I chose Resurrection too. I kind of like what you said, Scott. I feel at this point the mirror universe has been done to death. There's really nowhere else Deep Space Nine can go with it. But here we are. We have another episode. It just doesn't have a place in this season. Right in the middle of the Dominion War, we get this filler episode. Brings nothing to the ongoing storyline. It just seems like an excuse for the writers to bring back the character of Bareil, which he wasn't really the most popular of characters to begin with, to tell you the truth.
Right,
so his reappearance, it falls flat. It's just more of those, who cares moment. That's how I felt. Who cares about everything that's happening in this episode? We want more Dominion War. We don't want this boring episode.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And finally, for every season, we place the spotlight on one character and give our favorite moments. For season 6, we take a closer look at our favorite Trill science officer, Lieutenant Jadzia Dax. Scott, what is your favorite Dax moment this season?
Honestly, it's for an episode that we didn't cover. You were cordially invited.
Yep.
What she
I think we're all gonna pick
endures
that one.
with Sorella, wife of Martok, is one thing, but how she handles it is something else entirely. I think the entire episode shows the strength of her character, her sense of humor, and her ability to go toe-to-toe with any Klingon. I think in some ways you could argue that she's more Klingon than Worf, as much as Worf tries to, kind of dance that balance. But yeah, she blew me away in that one, and I loved seeing where the episode ended up.
I'm glad you brought up that episode, because that is it's an important episode that we had to kind of leave off the top 10. So, I guess any episodes outside our top 10 doesn't really matter about spoilers. But Worf and Jadzia, they get married in this episode. So that's kind of important to know, I guess. So if you haven't figured it out after you watch these. Now, David, what do you think?
Oh, it's the same thing. It's you're quarterly invited. It really shows you the depths of Dax from this episode, how she's able to handle everything and how strong she is in the Klingon world. Sometimes it's almost embarrassing for Worf because she does such a better job of it than he does.
Right. She out-Klingons him.
Yeah, out-Klingon him, absolutely. And Star Trek has never really had a full wedding episode, and this is a full wedding episode from beginning to end. The entire episode is, and it's done really well. So I think the whole episode, not just a moment, it's a whole episode of Dax that is just extremely well done.
It's funny that you guys chose an episode that we didn't include in our top 10, because I did too, but I chose Change of Heart only because of a couple of specific scenes. But the episode is Worf and Jadzia. They go on a dangerous mission to extract a high-value Cardassian informant, but when Dax is badly wounded, Worf must choose between completing the mission or saving her life. Because Jadzia, she's injured. And she urges Worf to go on, leave her, and complete the mission. She really loves Worf, and she's accepted her fate. But Worf, of course, he refuses. He disobeys the orders, risks his career to save her. It's one of Jadzia's, probably, in my opinion, this season, her rawest moment. It's one of the few times that she and Worf get to show just how much they mean for one another. Plus, it has one of my favorite exchanges for the season. It's when Dax is surprised that Worf tells her a joke. He says, I have a sense of humor. On the Enterprise, I was considered to be quite amusing. And then she goes, well, that must have been a very dull ship. And then Worf confesses, that is a joke. I get it. It is not funny, but I get it. I love it.
Yeah. Worf is a lucky character.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that man got married.
Yep.
But yeah, more of a testament to Jadzia, I think.
Well, it's nice that he finally found a little bit of happiness. He had everything happened with Kalar, and then we never did find out whatever happened between him and Deanna Troi, which it was a relationship I wasn't overly crazy about on there, anyways. But something happened. I don't know they weren't together, but so he gets happiness and gets married. It's nice.
Yeah, for sure.
And there you have it, our top 10 episode Star Trek choices from the 6th season of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We'd like to open a channel to our listeners and hear just what you thought about our choices and the season in general. You can email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com, find us online at afilmbypodcast.com, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And if you're looking for more content or swag, you can join our Patreon and find out what exclusive gems are hidden within. A big thank you once again to my fellow Trekkers, David and Scott, for joining me through the wormhole once again.
Yep. Thanks, Wayne.
Yep. Thanks.
Next episode, we'll give you our top 10 episodes from Season 7, continuing and concluding the Dominion War and the saga of Deep Space Nine. Empires will fall, alliances will be forged, and new friends will be brought on board station to join in the battle. We look forward to returning to Deep Space Nine and to you, our listeners, on the next episode of Phasers Set to Stun.